Hi, in this video I'm going to show you the placer system from Allen Games. So yeah, I'll just explain scene by scene um, what's and what. So let's start with painting. I suppose it's the most useful one, or the mass placing, but it's useful, so let's start with that. So yeah, first of all, I will just disable these two. To add a painter or a wall painter, we can go Tools, Allen Games, Placer, and then here we can add a desired painter. So I will just add painter tool. So here we can choose a prefab palette, and prefab palettes are just palettes of prefabs. It contains like the prefabs, possible prefabs, some settings, and that's all basically. And some systems use it to spawn stuff, all kinds of things actually. Mm, so yeah, to paint you cannot just click, you have to enable it, and now you can click. So here I am in the mode scatter. It's, I suppose, the fastest way to populate your scene with objects. You have like this thing, and now you can paint. Of course there is undo support, and you can like make the brush bigger, so yeah, you can just paint. And yeah, you can create forest extremely easily with this. Then you can switch to like and by the way, this editor is red not because there is an error, but because it indicates that you are painting. I may change it to like yellow or something, but for now it's red. So now exact, it's exactly where you point it, and here is just, yeah, exactly where you point it. Oh, and there is too big normal here, so it doesn't accept it. But yeah. And now if you do not want that, you can always add an avoided layer. So this tree is on layer transparent effects. So I can do this, and now I cannot spawn. Like, yeah. Okay. So next mode is remove, which, well, I suppose doesn't need a lot of explanation. You remove placed objects. So if I were to scatter a lot of objects, I can just go with the remove brush, but you can see it removes them slowly when there is a lot of them. So let me just spawn a lot again. So to make it remove faster, not like this, you can increase the find count. So to optimize the system, I made it so that it removes 2 per update, like the find count per update, which is default 2, so that it wouldn't look through a ton of objects, but you can easily do this. It's just, yeah, and now you remove all that it finds. The next mode, I think, like most people like, at least from what I heard, is the replace mode. And for replacing, to replace, you have to switch the palette, so you have to replace for another palette. So let's switch to rocks, and the rocks palette is just a few rocks with some settings. And by the way, if you select an object, it automatically disables the painter. So now you can just drag over this and it will replace this, and it works the same with the find count. So if I were to do 1, you can see that if I just click, it does 1 replacement. If I drag, it still manages to replace them all. So yeah, if I were to like spawn a lot of rocks here and there, yeah, I can replace them with trees. If I do replace, just let me set this value bigger, and now I replaced the rocks with trees. So yeah, and this works if I were to remove the painter and add it again, it works the same. It doesn't look for like a spawned list to just brush size, I am scattering. Wait a second. Okay. No, okay. It doesn't look for okay, yeah, here you see. It doesn't look for a list or something, it looks for children. So if you have a big forest, I suppose it's best if you just look for children. And by the way, it spawns these objects as prefabs, because I set here in the palette, the prefab palette, to spawn as prefab. And this works only in the editor. In the play mode, it will just spawn it as an instance, and in the build, it will just not spawn it as a prefab, but as an instance automatically. So yeah. Now that I've explained the paint tool, let's go through the wall tool, the wall paint tool. So I will just do this again. So first of all, just like with the paint tool, I have a scriptable object. It's called wall settings, and it has post. Actually, let me just paint a quick wall. You click enable, and now you click from place to place to paint the wall. And yeah, so now if I just go here to show you real quick what's what. The post is this thing, like this. Oh, okay, I shouldn't actually click it, there is way too much here. But the post is this thing, like the main here. The rail are these rails. I don't really know what to call them otherwise. They connect the posts, and the pickets are the things on the rails, like in between. So that's what you do here. And if you want like more rails, for example, you can do it easily. So let me just add more rails. Now there will be 3 rails, one on height 0.3, the other on 0.6, and the final on 1. So if I revert it, and now go like this, you can see 3 rails. They are not really like spaced out nicely, because yeah, I would have to do 0.9. But anyway, this is how it works with the wall paint tool. So you can easily like create realistic walls too, and you can like, yeah, so you can create beautiful walls really quickly. And by the way, if you like click very closely, it's not going to spawn any wall, and it's going to spawn like almost here. So I clicked here and it was here. That's because it has fixed rail length to ensure that it looks nice. But if you want to make sure that it goes over point, you can allow overpaint, and now, yeah, you can see that I click here and it spawns it further. It may be a useful feature, but I prefer it to have it disabled. So yeah, now let me paint a few walls, because this is the demo scene, so I need to show off a few walls. Okay, that's enough. And by the way, one more thing. If you paint and you are like, oh no, I shouldn't go here, you should click this button, undo. So now it does it correctly, and not Ctrl plus Z, because Ctrl Z doesn't reset the position that you painted on. So you can see it doesn't really work great this way. But the undo does work great. So yeah, wait a minute, let me reset. Okay, so the undo does work great, because yeah. Okay, so that's it for the painting. Now let's go to something else. This was the longest explanation, I think, because there's the most here. So let's go to 3D text. So in the 3D text, it's actually really simple. You just have a text spawner, text, and some settings here. But overall, You just wait a second. Okay, so yeah, here are some settings, and here you have a font, text, and some settings, and the font is basically like a list of letters and representations for them. But don't worry, you do not have to type manually this many letters. Here, if you type the gear here, you have some like functions, and you can add numbers. This is going to add like 1, 2, 3, 4 to 10, and then you can add full, which adds full alphabet with big numbers, small number. I mean, okay, let me actually show you, it will be way simpler. So here is a new font. I can add full, which will add like M, the big M, small m, and letters like alphabet letters. You can clear, of course, add default, and this is going to add letters big and small in one slot. And then to fill in the representations, because it may be a dull task, you have auto assign model representations. You just get your representations from here, for example. Okay. So if I have this here, I can just select all of these letters, then assign them here, and now for n there is n, and like so on. So you have automatically assigned, so it's really not hard to create a new font. So actually I can show you how I type with this font, the newly created one. It will not be a problem. So like, yeah, you can see it all works with these enters, spaces, and yeah. And if you see like for example these are overlapping, it's because I did not manage to create good meshes for the texts, so the meshes are a little bit offset, but overall it spawns them like normally. So yeah, and you have auto update, so you can like update the text automatically once well, when you write it, or you can do it by clicking the spawn button and the revert, which is the children. Here if you put random offsets, it's going to apply random offsets. So here if I just type it, you can see like positions and rotations are very weird, not natural, but still. So yeah, the ground snapping text, it just snaps to ground, and you can have multi-line text. You can see that it updates here when I type something. The text is updating. That's because it's waiting for the Unity physics to update, because I want to be able to write text on text. So if I just type FFF, you can see the FFF is under the ground, and yeah, you have to loop through the text backwards to achieve that and wait for the Unity physics to update. Now the wall snappers are just the same. And by the way, here there is this arrow here, and this arrow is the direction that the text will try to snap. You have it here. Of course it supports undo. But yeah, if I were to do this, it would try to snap with this angle from this position. So yeah, if I do it like this, then just spawn it, you can see it's spawned like from to this direction. So if I just put it down like this and then spawn it, okay, actually I couldn't really spawn it because not enough space, but here, okay, yeah, now you can see that it did spawn on top. And if you were wondering why it overlapped, okay, it's not this one. Stop. Okay, if you were wondering why it overlapped, it's because Unity physics is just not the best in the editor. Even though I do wait for it to update, it's just Unity physics fault. So yeah. but I can like remove this font now that I showed you how I did it. Yes, all of these use correct ones. So now mask placing. Mask placing is fairly simple. You have a noise spawner, and by the way, here in noise spawner you have a preview that calls down here with this distance, so it doesn't lag out. But you can just, you have a preview of where it's going to spawn, and you can click spawn and it's going to spawn this. So you can like spawn this, and it's doing this asynchronously, so you can do some other stuff while it's spawning. It's avoiding big angles, and this is using the prefab palette that I showed you before, the tree prefab palette. So it's aligning a little bit to the normals, as you can see, as I said in the prefab palette. So yeah, and you have a lot of settings here. So for example, there is this grid spawner. I really like its effect when you spawn it. It's just, and there is the same, and there is the preview, and there are some grid settings here. And yeah, actually to spawn rocks I prefer to use the grid spawner with low spawn chance, because it just creates really cool effect. And you can set the random position offset to like 3, and at this point it's really not going to matter if you use the noise one or the grid one. So you can see here it looks really well, I think, at least. Oh, like this, it's perfect, I think. But yeah, the grid trees is just a ton of trees. Okay, now it's okay. It's spawned it. It spawned it really fast, in comparison to how much calculations it's doing to spawn it properly. As you can see, it's avoiding the big angles and aligning a bit. So yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it as this for the demo scene. And now the island generation. This island generation is inspired by Islanders, a really cool game. So it's picking best places and spawning, like, you can see. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry for that. Okay, the island generation is like procedural islands. You can use it for like, I don't know, procedural islands. It's actually, you can use it for anything really, or through city creations to islands. It's the best example that I found, and it looks really cool if you ask me. So first of all, I will walk you through what these steps do, because this is Step Manager. It manages all these steps here. So you have like step generations, which use step settings. I will not be explaining each step settings, for that is the documentation that I just finished actually. So, and this water here is not going to be in the demo. This is another assets water. I can actually like remove it, because it's not going to be in the asset. It's the Aqua Slide asset. Pretty cool. And yeah, it spawns the beach base at first, which is this mesh here, and the big beach base. It spawns one in this range here. You can see this gizmos here. Then it spawns the island base. Oh, which is like rocks. And from some reason I thought it would be cool to place trees and rocks. Don't ask why. And here you can see like the count of these iterations. And again, for that, go to the documentation what this means. I really don't want to explain it again. But yeah, it just spawns a few times, then it goes chests, and again it uses these settings. Like it prefers, actually it doesn't prefer to spawn in free place here, bad example. I think trees prefer to spawn in trees prefer to spawn in free places. So as you can see, the chest spawned here, and the trees now avoid this chest. So yeah, these trees spawned far away from the chest, as these and these. They couldn't spawn further really, because they want to spawn close to each other. Here, each tree is 2 to 6 distance from each other, so it couldn't spawn further. So this is one batch, this is the other, and this is the third batch, because there were 3 iterations, so 3 batches, and 3 to 6 count for each batch, but as you can see here, it just didn't find a good enough space, so it spawned 2. So yeah, and it spawns cactuses, and cactuses spawn in what I like to call snakes. So here, if you disable the max step spawn distance to all and make cactuses avoid one another, they will spawn in like snakes pattern. So it like goes like this, and it tries to avoid each cactus. So it awaits for the physics to update and tries to avoid each cactus that is spawned. So it spawns it in like snake patterns. You can see like a snake. Yeah. So if I just revert it and spawn again, you can see, yeah, the trees avoid the chests. Chests are spawning just like that. Trees are in batches, and yeah, you can like have very different results and yet make them follow some simple rules. So it does the step generation, the procedural generation, and really you can have really good results with it, I think. I mean, I really like them. So yeah, here you have it. And if you would like this to spawn faster, you can disable some awaits. So here it's mid spawn await. It actually doesn't need this, I think. So let me go into the prefab, select prefab asset. Okay, no, oh god damn it. Okay, so here you can just, so here it's waiting for this. It actually doesn't need to wait. Here I can do mid iteration await, and yeah, trees actually cactuses do need to mid spawn await, and trees need mid iteration awaits, so then they would avoid each batch. So yeah, now it's going to spawn a bit faster. Yeah, you can see it spawned almost instantly the base, and yeah, the cactuses still spawn a bit slower, but yeah, that's to achieve the snake effect, and Unity has to find time to update itself. Okay, so that would actually be it for the tutorial on Placer. Hope the audio wasn't too bad, because I don't have a better microphone. And yeah, that's basically all. Damn, this video is long. Okay, well, goodbye. Have a nice day.